Welcome, welcome. I'm Tiffani.
And I'm Andrea.
And we are Relatively Unstable. Don't forget to like, follow, share, YouTube, Instagram, what else? Facebook, all the streaming. Holler at us if there's something you want to hear from us.
Get it out the way.
So Father's Day just passed. And Andrea and I have had lengthy conversations about our relationships with our dads, and we both had very emotional, strong connections to our dads, and we both lost our dads, which has let's not start.
No, like we can't start just crying now.
Which has been I would say for me, for sure, the biggest challenge and hardship of my life. And I think Andrea is in agreement. And we wanted to kind of pick this up a little bit and invite some dads to join us today. And we have, let's do it in alpha order. We have Jerome Buffington, who is a dad of Logan, and Logan is 5?
She's 4. She'll be 5 in September.
Okay, she's 4. She'll be 5. And then Thaddeus Johnson, who's the dad of Nina, who is 16. And
I'm sorry.
David Walker Esquire, who is the dad of, let me see if I can get it right, Reagan, Skylar. I'm missing 2. Reagan, Skylar. Give me the other 2.
Kaylee, and one's named after HBCU.
Oh, Hampton.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
All right, HBCU.
Yeah.
And how old did you tell me they were, Dave?
They were all ages.
They're all ages.
18, 16, 13, turning 14, and 10-year-old that just passed, had a birthday in the pandemic. So all ages. You just pick a number. I've seen it.
And we picked these gentlemen because Andrea and I did have those relationships with our dads, and I have sisters. I do have a brother, but I have sisters, and there is a relationship between fathers and daughters that is unique and special to us for sure. Mm-hmm. So, guys, before the pandemic, we were all focused on the loss of Kobe Bryant and the hashtag that emerged after his death, hashtag girl dad. What does that mean to you guys?
For myself, it encompasses a lot. For me, it's balance. It's balance. Being a guy and having a girl, they bring out emotions in you that you're not really used to, at least for myself. They make you soft. But in being that, you still have to find a way to make sure that they're prepared for life. So for me, it's a balance of, knowing when to be tough, knowing when to say no, knowing when to give in, knowing when not to be a sucker, knowing when to have to be the bad guy and when to be that fun dad, that encouraging dad, instead of, just saying no or what have you, but being there to give them the support that they need when they need it. So it's a balancing act. Being a girl dad is hard. That's the easiest way to say it.
Thaddeus?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what he was saying. It encompasses, it requires a lot of energy. I think you're expected as the dad to kind of always be the playful one, the one that has the dad jokes. That's where dad jokes come in. My daughter was involved in a lot of sports, which added another layer of I didn't play sports growing up, but I was heavily involved in terms of wanting to be competitive, and he always try, like he says, it's a balance of trying to make sure that you're instilling some values that can carry her along in life, but you're also trying to school her on some things at the same time about your own species. So you're often trying to like tote the line of like, here, I'm, you know, I love you, I'm this different thing, but you just have to understand game, recognize game. I ain't about to sit here. You know, my daughter's approaching 16, so
right.
she's approaching that age where, you know, you walking around and you notice people looking at your kid, and you like, nah, we ain't about to be doing that.
Oh my God.
We ain't about to be doing that.
Before Dave talks, I just really have to I just have to tell you this. You know your daughter is going to have sex.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand.
I just want to make sure you know this.
I just don't need to
That's
like,
I'm sorry, it's gonna happen.
yeah, you didn't have to be that blunt with it, Tiff. I mean,
I can go further.
Tomorrow.
Right. We're gonna do it in your house.
oh hell no.
On the very couch you're sitting on, possibly. Just saying.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna. Hey,
all right, go ahead.
Just, I guarantee you this: let your daughter see you make love to your wife on your couch, and I bet you ain't nobody making love or nothing.
I do it to them before they do it to you, huh?
I did it first.
Thank you.
Now what? Now you imagine that. That's not
right.
funny. You're like, can we go to another room? Can we go to another room?
Nobody wants those problems.
That's funny. No,
I'm sorry, Thaddeus.
No. I mean, I was pretty much done, but I mean, I think it's the one thing that I feel like it's a job that I feel like I was born to do. You know, you didn't realize it until you get up here, but you know, I feel like I'm blessed that as my only child, you know, I don't plan on having any more children, so I am blessed that the one that I had ended up being like the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. So, stop it. So I don't have pets. I don't have anything else. I have literally nothing else. But, nothing else. But
I don't have any pets.
But it's just one of those things that you don't realize. You don't realize you're made for it until you're in it, and then you realize that like it's so fulfilling. Like the love that you can get from your girl is such a fulfilling, you know, thing that like, yeah, it's just, you know, you have a young boy, you sometimes you got to punch them in the chest sometimes at a certain age. You ain't got to do that with
So
young
barbaric.
boys. Yeah. So that's what it means to me.
Dave, what about you?
Oh man, you guys are very brave. You guys are really in touch with your emotions because I'm pretty much numb to all of this. Like, oh, they love their daughters and they so mean so much to them. Like, all right, maybe I'm a little too hard on my girls then. So I think when I first heard the hashtag girl dad, the story turned in by the ESPN anchor woman. And it's something that clicked with me right away. Kobe and I don't click on a lot of things, okay? So I'm not gonna say that, you know, this was somebody that I put in that hero category, but when she said the story about her having a child and Kobe said to her, you know, I love being a girl dad, and she hashtagged it, I knew where that came from immediately because my wife is the oldest of 4 girls. Mm-hmm. So her dad and I clicked early on when I first met her, and he was just happy to have somebody around the house to just talk to and tell stories to. And it built up trust in us. It built up trust with him. And one of the things he said after we had our 4th child was like, hey, just know you was built to be a girl dad. And I was like, that's what I am. And ever since, people know me in Atlanta as the guy with 4 daughters. So it kind of comes with me now. You know, I got the shirt. I mean, I got people. So when his dad now interesting stat about her dad, he had 4 daughters. Now he has 4 granddaughters, but one of his other daughters has 2 children, and they're girls. So he has 10 combined. He got 10 combined girls and daughters. So you want to talk about a girl dad? You get him on here.
You should have let me know. And you know what is so, to your point, there is something about that dynamic. I have two sisters, and I think we were widely recognized as the three sisters. There's something about that girl, that female energy, that feminine energy that sticks together and is bonded together like that. And my dad was clearly, the dad of those three girls. There was Adam, and everybody like praised him for having Adam. But there was something that was significant about him being the father of these three girls. And, whether it was the personalities that we all brought to the family and to, into his life and that accentuated his life, or whether it was just that no one really knew how he was a social person, but he was very, he wasn't an aggressive man, and he had three very strong personality, strong.
That poor man.
Why are you shaking your head?
That poor man. Because he had a very interesting relationship with all three of you all. All three of you all have your idiosyncrasies or whatever. And although you all are alike, you're very different as well.
Yeah.
And I used to ask him, like, how do you manage? You got one that won't eat chicken off a bone with veins. You got one that, that's over here. Then you got one that's oh man. I used to, your dad. And I would say this. I looked up to him because I could not understand how he could be a father to three beautiful girls and just not worry all the damn time. He let you all be free. He let you all explore. And he was there for you all, if anything went wrong. And that
he had three daughters who were three Pisces. He didn't want those problems. He was not about to challenge us too much.
I mean, there is a technique to it. People think of the daughters as like somebody dropped them off all three at your doorstep at the same time.
Right.
That don't really kind of happen that way. What happened is you just keep adding to your population in your house. Like, okay, it's just me. Oh, it's just me and my lady. And then it's me and this kid, and then this kid, and then this kid, and then this kid. And so it's about the kids early on. And then later you're like, dang, I have 4 kids, right? So I think that the personalities for me is when I walk in, the options is unbelievable. Somebody out of the 5 will be happy. I go to the happiest one every time. That is the formula every day. If it's my wife, hey, what's going on? What you do? Oh, I had a client. If I talk to the youngest one, she talked to a friend, we're kicking it. And then by that time, everybody's kind of chilled out a little bit and you can kind of ease in. But you got to identify the happiest one right away.
That's a good point, Dave. I never thought of it like that. There is always somebody to talk to. And there's always somebody.
There's always somebody mad as hell, though. Somebody mad.
I think we know in my family who that is.
Somebody is always mad as hell. I used to have a radar game, right? And the idea was how long could we stay on 6, right? 6 meant that everybody was happy at the moment. So we go 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. There's somebody like, roll the window down. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. And like every time somebody got upset, move the number down from 6. We could never stay on 6. It's impossible. So you got to kind of live with this like humming in the background all the time. I don't know how to explain it. Like you just got to know how to live with the traffic of all these personalities and experiences flying by you. You pick up some of like a high alert. Crying is a high alert situation. Yelling is a high alert situation in the house. Loud noises is high alert, and you move in that direction. You're like, oh, what's happening over here? So it's just
move
chaos.
Away from it.
Yeah, well, it's just a lot of chaos, and sometimes it's easy to be quiet in the chaos. And you're like, all right, nobody's even paying attention to me. So let's get over here and do what I'm doing. So it has its freedoms.
Can I say also that for me, I think being a girl, that girls hold you accountable. Like they hold you accountable very much. Like you know, she makes sure that what I'm saying, I'm also following. So as I'm trying to teach her lessons like, oh, boys are supposed to open the door for girls and this and that. And I got in the car the other day and she's like, you need to open the door for mommy. And I'm like, it's raining.
Right.
For Carrie.
You know, but she was adamant, like, no, daddy, if you're a gentleman, open the door for mommy. And, you know, that's when you realize that they're watching you and that you are setting an example for them. And you have to be on your P's and Q's because they'll call you out and have no problem with it. The one thing I do see, most girls don't fear their dads. You know, my daughter, I mean, she knows when I'm upset, but for the most part, no, daddy will do it. Daddy, you know, whatever. So they say what they want. They say what they feel.
So let me ask you this. So you just mentioned, you know, kind of showing her, you know, daddy's supposed to open the door for mommy. How do you balance that with not kind of binding them into a gender role where, like, how do you balance kind of that you deserve this respect, you know, and if your life mate is a man, this is how a man should treat you, but also you are a strong person and you can do for yourself. Like, how do you balance that?
For me, you know, my daughter's young, so although I try to teach her, you know, how she should be treated or what have you, I still make sure that she's very independent. So, you know, I have this thing like, Logan, you know, she'd be like, Daddy, I want to be a princess. I say, no, a warrior princess. And she's like, yeah, warrior princess. Because she goes from, you know, all I have is nephews. So she's the only girl. So, you know, she goes from playing and being tough with them, but also, you know, wanting to dress up in her you know, crowns and being very girly and things of that sort. And I also, you know, like we work out, she's athletic. And while we're working out, whether it's tennis or we run the hill or we'll do sprints on the track, you know, I can do anything. I don't let her say can't. You know, she can ask for help. Daddy, I need help with this, but I don't accept can't. So I try to empower her, you know. I can, you know, even Daddy, I'm tired. Oh, it's hard. Okay. But what do I say? We can do what? I can do anything I put my mind to, then let's do it. And, you know, get to it.
Yeah. And I think, and to go off of that, I think early on, you know, my daughter at an early age, I probably, you know, you give them you give them love, you give them that support because you're the first man that they love. So you give them that love and you give them that support. And as I get older and they start identifying themselves, I know for my daughter, I try to just let her have her own lane. I let her have her own beliefs. I let her have her own thoughts. I want her to be free to talk to me about however she wants to talk to me about things. You know, she came up more competitive and more athletic at a certain point. So some things just naturally came. They follow and watch you a whole lot more. So they emulate, you know, I only have one daughter and my only child. So she emulates my personality. So it was a lot easier for me to see some things in her and just kind of guide her as to what my thinking process was and some things with her. But I've never ever tried to tie her into any stereotype. Like she loves math and science. She plays soccer, but I still don't even tie her to those things. If she likes the color pink, likes the color black, likes, you know, my daughter sometimes was want to wear all black all day, and I'm like, cool with me. You know, she throws on my hoodies. She throws on my hoodies more than she throws on her own stuff. And I'm like, okay, you want to look like TLC or whatever? Cool with me. I don't know, like, you know, I'm just more like. So I think, like for me, I know that was just it just seemed like it naturally kind of evolved for me. So it wasn't even a lot of hard work for me because I think, like sometimes if your daughter's naturally independent, sometimes all you have to do is just kind of you give them like enough space that they just kind of explore and do some things on their own, and you're just kind of there to be their, I want to say their protector, because I know but you're there to just kind of be a guidance, be a person that can kind of like let them explore to certain limits, and you let them understand what some of those limits are in life sometimes. And I mean only limits in terms of kind of like vices and, other things that you've already experienced and encountered, but I never tried to do it to steer her into kind of any particular stereotype or anything. Maybe a soccer star. Maybe I did do that a little bit.
Right.
I'm working on. I'm still working on that.
Do you with 4 different personalities, how do you kind of balance that with them?
I mean, I find it's absolutely fascinating because one, you don't really have men talking about their relationships with their daughters like this because, it just doesn't happen. I don't know what to explain. And I really want to thank you ladies for bringing this together because it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't. So this is great, fascinating to hear both that is the round approaches. I mean, I'm 100% behind them. I think the biggest thing that I started to fear after college and meeting my wife was the stories of the sexual assault and how often it was happening with ladies, right? Like it was unbelievable in college. People would say, this happened to me, and girls, women you trusted, known, friends, happening to family members, etc. And I'm like, man, I did not know this was this prevalent. So when we had our first girl, Skylar, the number one thing I said I was going to show her how to do was to protect her vagina.
That's right. It's yours.
From the first day, it was protect your vagina. So when she would go to anyone's house or babysit, and I would say, hey, did anybody try to touch your vagina? And she's like, no. And I was like, she's like, well, grandma almost did, but nah, you're not really. Like, I was like, okay, well, that's fine. Grandma's fine. She has to do this. But the idea was that every time they would go somewhere, I would ask them that, all the way still to this day. And the idea is that, listen, your next level of your personality and who you are as a person is going to come through that channel. And whether you like it or not, that's where they come from. And so at least until you get to a point where you really want to understand what's happening, you have to make sure you protect it. Now, I did say this. If somebody tries, it's not your fault. I just have to explain to them how your vagina works. So if they touch it, you can tell me because they just need some instructions and they'll be happy to know the instructions once I give it to them. So make it feel like, oh, you're helping them by telling me, because that way I'll let them know. And then of course, I'll give them some damn instructions. But the idea is,
there we go.
Give them some damn instructions. But the idea is to empower them to say, from all your age, this is where I find a lot of sensitivity breakdown comes from. So let's try to do our best to concentrate on that. And then from there, everything else is easy. Everything else is easy, right? It's like,
I don't know what your girls are doing. I think my father, if he were here, would disagree vehemently.
About protecting it?
No, about everything else being easy.
Oh.
Andrea, I don't know about you. My father was not very, he wasn't really the dad that kind of, he left the like protect your body and what you can and can't do with your body. He left that to my mom, and my mom being the free spirit she is, there was little boundary other than just, make sure you're safe and make sure that you're doing what you want to do. And it's not somebody else's choice, it's yours. And my father just kind of rolled with it. I mean, I think he just would rather not have known, but he knew.
Yeah, so I'll be 39 in a couple months, and I'm still waiting for that sex talk from my mom. So, being that my dad's not here, I think he probably would have still waited too. But so maybe I've been doing the whole thing wrong all this time. I don't know. But yeah, like my dad wasn't for as much of a platform that I put my dad on. Like he wasn't, like we weren't like super close, but we were definitely closer than me and my mom are. But like the one thing that I related to from all of these fathers have talked about, like, yeah, me and my dad, we didn't have the sex talk. We didn't, he wasn't trying to get me to protect my vagina or anything like that. But what he did instill in me was this incredible feeling of, like, my voice mattered, that I could talk about things that maybe were way above my age level of perception and knowledge, but he still just allowed me to talk about these things. And those were moments that he was able to teach me. And like, we were able to have conversations about as adult as you could have with however old I was at the time, so, and we were able to just share and talk. And I didn't feel dumb. I didn't feel like he was judging me. I didn't feel like he was like, oh, silly little girl, you don't know what you're talking about. So I think I figured out the sex thing all right. But like that thing, that probably was the greatest thing that he could have instilled in me, was just the opportunity to speak and to have a voice and to feel like I was being heard. And Sammy is yelling at me, but yeah, so like, that's why it's so encouraging to hear these fathers say that. But I also think that we're living in different times though. And I think that our fathers broke away from what their fathers did, perhaps. And I think that these fathers are breaking away even further from what their fathers have done, and like how parenting has changed. The internet has changed the world, so it's definitely impacted parenting and how we relate to our kids or kids in our lives or whatever. So I feel like parenting is much more open, and it's such a joy to see, because I think that we as like 30 and 40 something year old could have used this open parenting back in the 70s and 80s, and that probably would have made us, a little more well-rounded, a little more open, a little more free, a little more whatever. So yeah, like,
so my parents were quite open, and my father wasn't necessarily forthcoming. He just wasn't hindering. He allowed that to happen. He allowed, I won't say allowed, like he was the dictator. He just didn't get in the way of
I'm the dictator. I'm the reasonable dictator.
Yeah, I think you just talk a lot. But there was something that Andrea said that sticks out a little bit, and I want to run by you guys, and that is, because her father and my father as well, I had a voice, probably far more of a voice than my father.
A whole lot of voice. A whole lot of voice.
Yes, than my father ever bargained for. And he was such a, he was super smart man, but he was definitely not a Dave. He was probably more akin to Thaddeus in personality. He was just a quiet, but he was also, people were drawn to him.
He was fun.
He was so fun. He was so fun. Thank you for saying that. He was my dad was so fun.
Your dad would come to the club with us.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember one time I tried to get him drunk. I kept buying him drinks.
That was his 50th birthday.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was his 50th birthday, and we wanted to spend his 50th birthday with us. And there was some dinner that night, and we all went out to the Afterglow, and Daron was pouring shots. I
was buying him drinks left and right.
And he was not a drinker, but what he did, and I would is kind of in some ways shape. I would put it this way. I once made a post on Facebook about how, as a mother, I take my job very seriously, but the job of a father and the influence of a father is seemingly so much greater. When I think about whether it's a girl or a boy, but particularly for girls, and particularly for women who enter relationships with men, I think that a lot of that closeness, that allowance that my father gave us, while it was, I value it so much, it almost didn't prepare me for adult relationships, because I really thought I can just get away with whatever I want, and I can do whatever I want, and you're just going to love me anyway. And there's no accountability on my part, because my father didn't really hold me accountable. I could be whoever and whatever, and he was going to love me anyway. There was always that cushion. What do you guys see as your role in helping your daughters shape their future relationships, or how they operate and function in those relationships?
I have a quick anecdote. It's the 100-minute rule. And the 100-minute rule says that when you're with somebody for 100 minutes and you feel good about yourself for 85 to 90 minutes, you're in a good relation with the person that you're next to for that 100-minute block. And then you stack 100-minute blocks next to each other. Now, this applies whether you're, boyfriend, girlfriend, just married for 10 years, married for 20 years, married for 2 days. Is how is your immediate 100-minute blocks? Now, if you are with this person sitting next to them, at 50 minutes of it, you are in an angry situation, whether because they left their socks out or because of, you found some text messages, whatever. You're just mad. And you're mad 50 minutes with a bunch of stack of 50 minutes, you're in a bad relationship. So you can either go and stop the blocks or go and find somebody else, or find a way to be happy in those 100-minute blocks. But if you keep finding yourself in a sad place for whatever reason, but you just can't find more than 50 minutes of happiness in the 100-minute segments, it's bad. So I try to use math and trick them.
Put a lot of thought into this, Dave.
I got 4 girls. What else could I say?
Good at math.
Like that was quite a jewel that I couldn't follow, because I'm not good at math.
Yeah, I think you might have just enhanced my life, Dave. And and I'm not even one of your 4 daughters.
Yeah, there you go. 100-minute rule. It's the 100-minute
Andrea,
rule.
just go over there. They won't even notice.
Right. I'll just fall in. I'll just fall right in line. It's all right.
Because 40 minutes in right now, I'm trying to decide if I'm happy on this podcast.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
And this is what my father dealt with. You are. You can't tell me any different.
Yes, I'm lounging with the Langford. Stop playing.
Now you see why I used to pray for that man.
I guess I'll go. I think the role that I've always tried to just have with my own daughter, like, I don't take no shit. Like, the one thing that I've always tried to instill was there's a certain level of discipline and things that I just that I require her to do, and these are things that are just basic essentials of life. So it's just like, take care. I'm like, I don't know about your body. I'm not I'm a man. You're a woman. So you need to understand what your body is, how it works. I'm here to provide any resources that I can have for you. And, you can, and your mom, of course, and stuff like that. But these are the things that I'm like, you need to fundamentally understand these things about yourself. In terms of schoolwork and things like that, you just always have to be fundamentally prepared to do the work that you need to do when required to do so. No excuses. In terms of if she's doing things athletically, diet-wise, like eat right, do these elements of things. And I mean, I've come to the expectation that there's some level of rebellion that will occur, and so I try to spawn conversation and spawn communication and spawn those things, but I'm not gonna ever let her like talk back to me. I mean, that's just still an element there where it's like, look here. Like, no, I'm still the parent. You're still a kid. I don't care if we're man, woman, man, woman. You're not going to sit here and speak, however you want to speak. But at the end of the day, I still want you to have a loving freedom of life to know that you can still explore some things outside of the basic requirements that you have to do, so that those are their elements. I'll just try to support you wherever you are trying to do so and trying to find that explorational path that you're trying to seek. So I feel like that's always been my role. I think like I work well because, like I said, I don't get too high. I don't know how to explain. I don't get too high on the highs and too lows on the lows. I try to keep a consistent mindset. Like I'm always proud of her and the things that she accomplished, you know. But I try not to like look at it as the finale of the feeling and knowing that there could be more accomplishment that could happen. And I try not to look at the downs as like, oh, you've disappointed me for life and blah, 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 blah. That, you know, there's always ways for you to recover. So, I mean, I just felt like that was always kind of my personal role with my child. I think everyone is different. That's the beauty of it, is that there's no one way to, I would say skin a cat. That don't sound right.
Yeah, don't say skin a cat.
There's one way there's more than one way to eat chicken. Let's put it that way. There's more than one way to eat chicken.
There's only one way to eat chicken, and that's skinless, boneless chicken breast.
Oh, that's
Now, do you see what he had to deal with?
Yeah.
My man Pete.
Yeah. I remember I heard the vocals when I was DJing, and
oh my God,
I had the infamous the speech with her dad and all of the words that he used. So I remember that. It was, but that was still amazing though.
I mean, to your point, that's the influence daddies have. You know, he's gone, but he had to be there, and I wholeheartedly believe that. He told me to do that. He guided me into that moment because he wasn't going to miss his daughter's wedding. And what he's referring to is the speech that Olivia and I gave at my sister Lauren's wedding, where we were able to splice in my father's words and sentences into the speech. And I mean,
wow.
if you know him, you know that that's no matter where he is in this universe, where his spirit is, he wasn't going to miss that moment.
No, Pete was always there for his kids. Hey, see him over there at Rosedale Park, coaching coaching the little league.
Like, right, I'm gonna sit here and watch my daughter.
He was sick, couldn't walk, and he would drive his car and park to watch me coach his grandson.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jerome, what do you think? How do you see your role in kind of shaping Logan and her ability to navigate relationships later on?
I just look at it as trying to raise a good person. So that is really my focus. Making sure that she has empathy, making sure that she's considerate, making sure that she's polite. She is spoiled. Let me say that. She is spoiled, but even in being spoiled, and let me not say it's me. Like I said, she's the only girl on either side. So she's the only granddaughter for my wife's father. She's the only granddaughter for my father and mother. And they do whatever she wants them to do, as well as her aunts and everything, because they all have boys. So she's the only girl. She's like the daughter of them all.
Right.
Literally, I think she told my sister-in-law that she was coming to spend the night tonight. She's been telling her all week. No matter what, she just goes along with it. But my thing is to make sure that she's a good person, that she knows how to treat people. She knows how to converse with people. She knows how to act in different situations, that she's polite to her elders and listens, as well as is able to voice her own opinions and concerns and wants and needs. And really a lot of it too is me trying to remove fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to empower her as much as possible. My wife is the scarier of us. So she's like, well, she might hurt herself. She's not. I'm like, let her try. Yeah. She has to try. We can't do everything for her. She has to be able to learn to navigate for herself. If she tries and fails, then we help. but let her try. And most of the time when she tries, she's able to do it, or she's able to see that she's almost there. And with a little help, she's able to do it. So it also teaches her that we always have her back. You know, that's one thing I always, make her repeat when we're together. Who always has your back? Daddy always has my back. That's right. Who loves you the most? Well, Daddy and Mommy. I'm like, no, Daddy. So
you gotta fight.
But Jerome, do you think that's gonna cause? Do you think that will? How do you think that will? How do you think that will play out in her relationships in the future with that expectation? Because that you're you're setting the bar high for her and her expectations. Do you think that, and you can even draw on experience, with relationships, like, do you think that, I think we all, know and are familiar with the term daddy issues, and daddy issues can be one way or the other. That can be, the dad was too good, or the dad was, super shitty. Won't name names. But that could be either one. And and if you're too, do you think there is such thing as being, as setting the expectations too high for your daughter?
Yeah, no. So my job is to support her and teach her what she should have. That doesn't mean that she's gonna get it.
Are those Dave's daughters?
On the background?
Yes.
Probably. They're at the cafeteria.
Oh. I'm sorry, you were saying?
I was saying that does not mean that she's going to get it, Right. I go into a car dealership and I may say I want this car, but then I see something else and they start showing me all these bells and whistles, and or the car might not come with everything that I want on it. And sometimes you have to not settle, but pick what you want, what's important to you, and put it like that. I think I had to do that even when finding my wife. I wasn't. I haven't found anybody that can cook like my mama yet. I haven't found anybody that works as hard as my mother yet. But. No, Thad, don't look like that.
I did not authorize
Where's this going?
I'm being serious and I'm being honest. My wife is wonderful. I love my wife. But sometimes we have things in our head that we think are important until we find what's really important. Yeah, I gotta eat, but I don't necessarily have to eat my mother's cooking, although I like it. My wife does fine. It's not my mama's cooking, but it's fine.
I think we should move on from that.
Trying to get my mom to give me some lessons, but
Speaking of mac and cheese.
Not authorized at all. Not endorsed.
DNA does not.
Well, what
The statements by Jerome Buffington are purely his own. They do not reflect.
No smoke.
Wait, she doesn't have his link, does she? No, send her this link, Tim.
I think she will after this.
No. But what I'm saying is, you have to find what's really important for you. She may not want a man like me. There's some things that, I know that I don't do everything right. There's certain things that she probably is going to say that she liked about her father, and there's going to be certain things that she said that she doesn't like about her father. So I guess my job is to do the standard of both. Find out the things that you like, as well as the things that you don't want in a relationship or in a man. So I don't know if you can necessarily do too much, or I'm supposed to be there to support my child. I don't think I'm supposed to be there to do everything for her. That's not my job. It's to prepare her for the real world, to let her find out or have the freedom to make mistakes and be able to try again, as well as to be there to support her when certain things don't work out, as well as to be there to cheer her on when they do. So again, it comes back to that balancing act that I was talking about. It's a balance.
How have your relationships with your own fathers kind of influenced how you parent your daughters?
Oh, well, my dad, I'm from Detroit. My dad died of an overdose of drugs when I was 9 and he was 29 in Detroit. And my mom and him were kind of separated at the time as well. So I only see him on weekends, grab a bacon cheeseburger, put together a model car sort of relationship. And for a long time, as I went into, high school and eventually college, I kind of created this like shamefulness that, I tell people he drowned, or, because if you tell somebody your dad drowned, they're not going to ask a lot of questions. You say anything else, it's like, well, how long was he sick? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, he drowned. I'm like, oh, I don't want to hear about it. So you carry that shame. But once I actually became a father and saw that it was my turn to plant my own tree. Number one, there was nothing to be ashamed of. My dad, he served in the Army overseas, probably battling depression, and the drug to medicate people at that time was heroin. And it is what it is, right? Number two is that it's not about his tree, right? It's about the tree we're about to start. So I came up with an acronym of 4 principles that our tree will definitely have based upon what I've seen in poverty in Detroit and now wealth. And what are those 4 principles that matter regardless of money? Because people have stress at both ends and they have suicide at both ends. So I think time, relationships, energy, right? And enthusiasm. So that's the new tree we have. Time means that everyone has the same amount of time. Get to everything early, right? Like stop trying to down everything inside the 5. Just go ahead, get the nice, comfortable 10, 15 minute target of getting there on time, because you allow yourself to do the second thing, which is build relationships. So the more people you have in your story, the more pages you can write, the more places you can go, because the more people hear your story, the more they connect you with other journeys you have. So talk to and increase your characters every day in your story and your relationships. And then 3, give every person you talk to in your story energy. Make them feel better about themselves after they meet you than before they met you. So even when I see them and they complaining in the morning, like, oh, is that new pajamas, Reagan? She's like, oh, you like this? Like, yeah. And then so she forgets that she was bad about something. So the idea is that if you give everybody energy that you meet, then they're going to want to be good characters in your stories. And lastly is enthusiasm. We all got things to do. All of us on the Zoom call got things to do. And we got to do them no matter what. You got things to do and I got things to do. But let's do it with enthusiasm, because it's not going to change. Some daughters want to sit there and look at it and go, maybe we can go around it. Or do we have to go fast? And so they want to think about it. I'm always like, just get it done and do it with some enthusiasm. So once you take on the role as you're being your own father, yes, some of the things that you kind of got into you always just say, I want to be a little bit better. I just want to do it a little bit better. And I'm sure Jerome said it best. Anything that happens is definitely going to be my fault. I'm already ready for it. It's going to be my fault. And you go, why? Because I know it's already my fault. And it's not even grown yet. It's already my fault. So I'm prepared for that. But I can say I gave it my best shot. There was no instruction booklets. I made up my own acronym. I made up my own everything because I don't have anything to go off of. And anybody who says they do is full of it, because no one knows how this is going to work out. So, don't become a stripper and don't become a serial killer. You're fine.
But love her anyway if she does become a stripper.
No, I mean, there's other options for money. They get the lowest base pay per person, So this is about economics. It's not about your body. It's about, you could do something more efficiently than a stripper. There's places where you can make a lot more money with a lot less energy. If you see the heels they have to wear, the ankle supports they have no health insurance. This is an economic.
Okay, practical dad.
Sexuality.
And it takes a lot of practice.
He puts a
Right.
lot.
When they have a strain and you hurt your body, you know that because I'm an NFL agent. Your career's over. You can't have a cramp, a stripper. You can't have a blown quad. You can't perform. You're out. You don't want to put that in the hands of your revenue. Instead, use your brain, your calculator. Use the
I
calculator.
have never heard the reasoning of not being a stripper being a sprained hamstring or.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. It happens, and you out.
I'm sure that's the stripper. I would probably break my ankle. I'm notorious for falling.
I have a whole story about me and stripper shoes that we'll have to save for another podcast.
I can't wait to hear this one now.
But
now we're getting good stuff.
But let me tell you, your girl almost broke an ankle. I'll just say that. so you're right, Dave. You're right. You actually might break an ankle and cause more damage.
Anybody who's ever been to a party with me has probably seen me tumble at some point. It happened a lot. Daron and Thaddeus, how have your relationships with your fathers or maybe lack of relationship with your fathers shaped how you raise your daughters?
For me, my father was very involved. He was a lot more strict with me as opposed to my sisters. Actually, matter of fact, my sisters and I actually have a different father. Like, we have the same father, but we have a different father. So, matter of fact, that's their dad. That's my father. That's their daddy. That's my father. Right? So, I have an older sister and I have a younger sister. And they can get pretty much whatever they want from my father. He's a sucker for them, literally. I watch my sister come in and say, Dad, I need you to sign for me this car. And he was very adamant. I'm not signing for you a car. 15 minutes later, okay, where do I sign? And I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Mm-hmm.
Me, if I came in there and said, loan me $10. What you need $10 for? You're not a man asking me for money, you know. I don't. What kind of interest? I got to charge interest on this. I mean, it would be. I had to sign literally. This is funny. My father still holds this over my head. When I was in college, I had to borrow some money for school. I think it was like $1,500, $2,000, something like that. And he made me sign like a form saying I was gonna pay it back and this and that. And he still has it. He's kept it in a safe. So that if anything happens,
in his coins.
You know, and he brings this up all the time. Now, he's bought my younger sister 2 cars that I know of and a house. My older sister, he bought her, she has a house up in Ottawa, which I think he bought her that too. But she was talking about horses one day. And he went and bought a horse.
Like a
for her in Ottawa. Yeah, we bought a horse up there. I'm like, you're 70-some years old. At that time, she was late 50s. And I'm like, isn't she a little old to be buying a pony for?
That's funny.
But, you know, I try to find that happy medium. I don't want to be a sucker like him with them. And I don't want to be as hard as he was on myself. So I want to, my father was the kind of person that he tells you what to do. There's no asking how you feel about it. There's no discussion. It's my way, the highway. That's it. And with certain things with Logan, I'm like that. You know, if I tell you to do something, do it. You know, she's getting into the point now where she's making faces, and this and that. And I'll tell her, come here. What did Daddy tell you to do? You told me to do that. And Daddy tells you to do something. What do you do? Do it. But then she, you know, frowns her face up. And I said, no, when Daddy tells you to do something, we don't frown up. We don't talk back. We just do it. If you want to talk about it, you can come talk about it. But we're not going to do smacking of the mouth. We're not going to do the talking back. And we're not going to do the frowning or anything like that. And I find myself intervening between her and my wife a lot more now, because I already see it's oh man, it's gonna be bad when she gets older, because my wife is more of a friend to her. You know, they play. I try to keep it to where, you know, I'm still the father. I'm not your friend. You know, we can have some fun together here and there, but I'm still daddy. It's no, you know, we're not going. It's a line there that we don't cross. It's certain things. My wife kind of plays with her a little bit more and goes back and forth with her. Let me put it like, she goes back. I don't go back and forth. So
back and forth, right?
I see that train wreck coming.
Yeah, you got to stop the back and forth because that gets worse.
Yeah.
It's recorded now.
So we had to let Andrea go and break this up into two parts a little bit. But Daron, you were just saying that you try to draw that line between being your friend and being your father.
Yeah. I like, she knows I can joke with her, I can play with her, but there's a line, you know. And I'll say, Logan, you know, and I guess she knows the tones in my voice, and I know the tones in her voice when, you know, she said, like, I had to catch myself the other day. She did something, and I just out of reaction, I popped her hand. I probably popped it too hard, did, you know, the knuckle thump, and I could see, and I had to stop and say, baby, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. You were wrong, but daddy still shouldn't have hit you like that. That's not how we, you know, react, or how I should have reacted. That was wrong. Give her a hug and tell her I'm sorry and everything, and just explain, you know, when daddy's wrong, I'm gonna say I'm wrong. You know, I can apologize too. And it's just I don't know, it's so different. Like, when she looked at me and I could tell like she was really hurt. Like, I don't even think she was hurt from the pop. She's more hurt from it came from me, you know? Like, if I yell, she instantly, though, you know, those eyes start to water or what have you. And I usually don't raise my voice, but if the tone changes, you know, and she knows I'm not happy, it's totally different than if my wife does it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
it's totally different. It's totally different.
The disappointment, it's like you see that you're like, okay, they get it. Like, it sinks in. Like, okay, look so disappointed. I fall for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they, you know, you get the little puppy dog. I you know, it's like Puss in Boots.
Yeah.
The thing, the little cat on Shrek, and they you go get the little cat eyes, and they do that. You feel so bad, and now I think she's learning that it's a tool. Like, I have to watch her like, oh no, that was not real. This was not real. Like, but daddy, no, baby, that's not how it goes. But again, it all comes down to balance for me. It all comes down to that balance.
So what you're saying is your father would not maybe have had taken those steps back to kind of analyze the, like, who you were, you know, and how you felt about it.
No. My father has never. I'm 49. My father's never apologized for anything wrong. Now, he'll change the subject. He'll change the subject real quick.
Right.
But he apologized, man. Come on. I haven't done anything wrong in my life. Let him tell it.
Right.
Only thing I ever did wrong. What did he tell me? The other thing I ever did wrong was think that I was wrong one time.
Oh my God.
No.
Thaddeus, how has your relationship with your father influenced how you raised Nina?
Well, my dad wasn't. He went from kind of being around to not being around. To the point that most of my memories are probably don't involve him. So I think that the model that I've kind of always had with parenthood was kind of like the best ability is availability. And so what I wanted to be for my daughter was just always available first. Like, and in terms of all those roles that they've mentioned before, you know, you're kind of putting on all these different hats. Sometimes you are being playful with them like a friend. Sometimes you're just trying to give them knowledge like a father, like an older figure, an adult. Sometimes as a guy talking to a girl that you really care about, that you're just trying to instill some of these natural things in them. My father wasn't involved in my sister's life, and I know that she lacked a lot of that knowledge and guidance. And sometimes for me, I had to kind of be the older brother that was giving my younger sister the knowledge and younger sister the kind of the understanding of what's going on in our own household situation with my mom and her. And so a lot of times I was left with her. She's 8 years younger than me. So I was oftentimes trying to like just talk to her and kind of calm her, you know, down. Was like, you know, if she said something to the extent of like, you know, she had issues where like, why my father not involved in her life? And I've had to, you know, try to instill that. And I could see the hurt in my own sister. And I was like, well, as a father, you know, I definitely never wanted to have a thought in which my child isn't available to me at any point. Like me and her mom aren't together in terms of my own daughter. And so trying to kind of balance that, but just making sure that like we were always going to be always available to each other. Like regardless of whatever relationship you know, me and her mom may have had like good times, you know, not so good times, but there was always definitely a respect in terms of like what we want to make sure we do is to make sure that we're always available to you because we want your life to feel as though it has purpose, that you are meaningful to the people that love you. You have a village of people that love you, and you're going to constantly have that. And so, with that knowledge being there, we can instill everything else. But the first thing I just wanted to make sure I was just, I'm going to be available to you. You know, I think what I just kind of globally thinking, like just a lot of my peers, you know, when I was growing up, a lot of my peers didn't always have that availability either. It wasn't just me. It was kind of like a culture of us, especially when you're growing up in the inner city and you're being raised by grandmothers, you're being raised by different parents that are just not enough men. And so a lot of my male role models were people in rec centers, you know, coaches, you know, you had a couple of teachers. But I think the one beautiful thing about what we live in now is that we just have a group of men that are just available to their kids. And I think I've always appreciated that in the friends that I have, that like, hey, I just appreciate that you love your kid as much as I love my own kid, and that it's a village of us. It's not just a couple of us. It's like a majority of men in this generation take on that responsibility with like a joy, you know, like Jerome speaks of your father, and it's kind of like you may have looked at it like, man, that seemed very odd because, you know, I mean, I've seen a lot of fathers that was just like out there doing this for a lot of their kids, you know. I certainly didn't see a lot of it. And so for me, the big word has always just been availability, and just seeing the ton of people that's available to their kids now versus before. Just it gives me a positive spirit in terms of like being able to have these kind of conversations with other fathers, because there's a point in time in the past that you may only gotten one of us on the screen instead of like 3 or 4 or had 10 options or whatever.
And can I say that, you know, also like your dad, you know, Mr. Langford, my man Pete, watching him and watching the relationship, like I said, I said at his funeral, you know, when I came, his relationships with each and every one of you, and respecting the differences in each and every one of you, and loving the differences in each and every one of you. You know, I look at him, I look at a couple other men that I know that have, you know, daughters, and I'm like, that's the kind of relationship I want to have with my kid. I want my kid to be able to, and maybe I don't know if I'm wrong, from the outside looking in, I always felt like you all could go talk to your dad, you know.
He could. He didn't. The thing about my dad is he wasn't the type to. he wasn't, because he didn't really learn how to like just sit there and open up on his own. But if we went to him with something, he would talk about us, and then occasionally he would say something, you know, profound, you know, emotionally profound. But I could sit there and talk to him about anything. And you know, again, I have what I definitely got from my mother is kind of like that filterless conversation where I will say what's on my mind and or ask the questions, you know. And it's so funny, we were talking about like sex earlier, and I remember being very young and say and asking my father, what is masturbation? And he was like, his response at the moment was, go ask your mother. But he didn't shoo me away. He didn't, you know, he was just caught off guard. You know,
How old were you then, Tiff?
I had to be younger than 10. So
wait, where did you get masturbation from?
probably my mother.
My girl dog.
Probably my mother. But I could, you know, and I think about just moments in our life. And for me, I've always been a very emotional person, and you know, and he was not, and but he did so well with me without having the real emotional tools to manage me or to manage my emotions. And another question I wanted to ask you guys was just, how do you know, Dave said earlier, you know, that's not him when you guys were kind of opening up, but how do you feel and how comfortable are you letting your daughter see you be vulnerable? You know, have they ever seen you cry? Like, how do you feel about, you know, have you gotten to this place, because we're all in our 40s, and you know, we're kind of on that line of that men don't cry, where now it's like emote, go to therapy, you know, take care of yourself. How do you guys feel? How comfortable, what's your comfort level of showing your daughters that level of vulnerability?
I'll start off. I mean, to me, that's always kind of been a work in progress. And I think one of my main things, I see a therapist now, you know, and I don't necessarily see a therapist to handle negative things. It's just to kind of make adjustments and cope with, you know, the current circumstances. And one of those is just making sure that I'm having the proper tools to communicate and be there for my daughter. You know, I've always said it. That was one of the major goals. I was a person that was very emotionally kind of distant, very a person that just didn't express a lot of feelings about things, and that I wanted to be able to express that and know that my daughter didn't have to emulate that there's other options in terms of doing so. So I try to just offer up some of those questions. Now, in terms of like vulnerability and crying, like I've shown vulnerability in terms of acknowledging when I'm wrong. You know, I'll go back to my daughter, like Daron has mentioned, if something isn't right and you know you did something kind of wrong, you'll go back and you'll apologize and you state, this is why, you know, I thought this, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Or just express what you thought about during the process and just explain my own thinking process through it, and try to express things in that nature. She can probably detect sadness. She probably can detect some things. She's never seen me cry, but I don't think the irony is, I'll say it, in the last 10 years, I don't know if I've seen my daughter cry. You know, like I think that she's a unique person in terms of the way that she processes her own emotions. And so I oftentimes use therapy as one of the tools that I can use to understand what those emotions mean so that I can continue to communicate with her, and vice versa. And I would encourage her to do the same as she gets older, to process her emotions and understand what it means. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, that's excellent. Dave, we haven't heard from you in a while. Dave is a Scorpio.
Yeah,
I know you're full of emotion.
Oh yeah, I am. I think it's interesting, like I said, is because maybe I'm an attorney and maybe because I'm an engineer, I don't really have a lot of like random emotion that would lead to a crime. Although one of my favorite quotes of all time is the Jimmy V quote where he says, you know, you laugh, you think, you cry, you have a full day, you know, don't give up, don't ever give up. And I would say that to them because that's what they would do. They spend a part of their day and they laugh, they think, and they cry. And so I would project that onto them and say, hey, if you did that today, you felt the full emotions of life. You should be happy. So, but I don't think that I can actually get emotional about the kind of things they get emotional about. Okay. Yeah. Like if somebody steals their face gel, it's about to be an emotional night. I just can't get into that. I just can't get into the emotion of how that must feel. You go and get your face gel and it's not there and it's in your sister's room. Now, they have seen though the emotion of disappointment when my fucking team loses. And they've seen how it changes me. They've seen that. So the emotion that they've seen usually comes from sports for me. Like when my team loses, I don't like to lose. And, you know, that bothers me when the team loses. And I'm almost brought to tears. I don't think I'll cry about it, but I'm upset. I don't want to go out. I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't want to have a conversation about anything. And I try to fight through it. And I tell them, the number one thing we used to think about growing up is one phrase they all know, think about something else. Like every time they get crying, every kid should cry. You can't tell a kid don't cry. The question is, how long? Like, are you gonna do this for 10 minutes or 5 minutes? Like, let's go wrap it up. So after 5 minutes, it's like, you know, you gotta think about something else now. I mean, you don't have any more tears left.
Hey, if you would have set me on fire, I would have been left at the police station.
That's right. Wrap it up here. You gonna cry all night? Come on.
Yes, I am.
Oh, I guess I'm talking about different ranges. I'm sorry. I'm talking about the Rounds age. Like I wasn't talking about the 18-year-old. I mean, that's a different crying. Those are two different cryings. Two different cryings I'm talking about. The Skylar cry is very passionate. It's emotional. It's Black Lives Matter. It's can't believe this is happening. I saw this video. It's very passionate. So no, I don't. I think if I did cry, I don't think I would care if they saw me. I mean, I try to find reasons to cry. I do. I mean, I want to cry. It just doesn't flow naturally. I don't think I'm holding it back. I just cry.
It says I want to cry.
I do. I want something to cry about.
I understand it.
Like I see a movie or something like Glory. I almost cried when Denzel get whooped in Glory. That almost made me cry.
You never saw Terms of Endearment? That movie will make you cry. It's guaranteed. Guaranteed.
No, but I think I'll cry when my oldest goes off to Stanford, and I actually have to send her off with the idea that turn her loose to the world now, right? Like here. This pandemic gave me an extra overtime. I'm very thankful for her to put more stuff in her head. She's gonna be so ready to go when it's time to go. She's like, yeah, I'm stuck with this guy all summer. So, but when she leaves, and that actually makes me teary-eyed now. When I think about like at the airport or at the school, it'll probably be something that you never imagined as the last moment, like at the restaurant paying for the tab, got to catch the cab or something. You're like, okay. Like all those of like, I'm down to a population of 5 in my house, and it starts to go down. And it's that
what's the date? What's the date that she leaves? Because I want to follow up on this.
Well, her classes start September 16th, and they moved our move-in date. It used to be September 14th, and they're moving it around because they're trying to figure out how the schedules go. So
yeah, I want to follow up on this. I will tell you a quick story before I get to Daron. So my son, who is quite an emotional person, how he manifests those emotions, not necessarily always the healthiest. And
we talking about Jake, or we talking about E-Dog?
We're talking about the big one, Eric. And we were button heads, like, Daron saw Eric grow up and knows how close he and I were. The child was like attached to me. And at some point, to Thaddeus's point about rebellion, he rebelled terribly. And to the point where I was like, can we move this date up? Like, when can he get in the dorm? And he was like, to me. And I was like, like, I can't even look at your face. And the day that we took him to school, I went in to wake him up, and this kid just started, I'm about to cry about it now. He just started crying, and he'll kill me. I'm sure he's not paying attention to what I'm doing, so he won't even know. But he started crying, and I started crying, and I'm a crier anyway, but I was so unprepared as a parent for that moment, because he, up to that point, hated every cell in my body. And then he's like, I don't want to go. I'm going to miss you, and I don't know what to do. And, so I need you, September 16th, I need to know what day this girl leaves so that I can follow up with Cheryl, because I feel like Cheryl will tell me the whole truth and nothing but
no doubt.
And I need
I'm
to
predicting
know
I'm going to cry. I'm putting it in early. Cheryl will have sunglasses on. She tries to hide everything. I'm calling it. That way, we can kind of set our clocks to it and let me get a good release.
Everyone heard it. We're following up on this. Jerome.
I'm going to find it. I'm going to tap into it.
Dave, the first time I ever saw my father cry was when my little sister was going off to school.
Okay.
I couldn't believe it. Like, literally, it was so bad. He and my mother were supposed to drive her down to Hampton. He couldn't do it.
Mm-mm.
He stayed home.
What?
I ended up having to take off work and drive with my mother and drive my sister. He could not do it.
Wow.
When we drove off, he was in the door bawling like a baby. And I'm sitting here like, who is this man?
Right.
Again, we have two. That's their daddy. It's my father. He didn't even take me to school. He just put me on a plane and was like, good luck. So
he thought something was wrong with him. He was probably like, man, I must be sick. I gotta stay here. I can't believe all this emotion I'm feeling.
I mean, he was totally off of it. Like,
I understand.
He was in the door in a robe. I mean, it was sad. It was sad. And I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at my mother like, what is he on drugs? What is going on? This man, this is not who I know. Like, this is not the man I know. And
that little baby you have, man, is gonna look at you, and as soon as you look at her, you're gonna see that little baby, that little 5-year-old girl, and you're gonna think about the idea that the world is now her oyster, and she gets to permeate it, but you can't protect her. You can't. Hey, I gave you a new toolbox. I told you about these rules. Your vagina's good. Like, you're giving her all these things to go off into the world, but when you actually have to let it go, man, that's gonna be tough. And then I got 3 more on the landing strip ready to go after her. So,
just imagine what that last one gonna be like.
Yeah, man. My wife talked about that, so you probably try to pick up a dog or something. I don't know at that point.
1 dog to replace 4 girls.
Population control.
Just to add to that too, though, like with my daughter, I'm starting to see the last of things. Like her being competitive. Yeah, like the past year, I don't know. I think some of y'all knew about that, where my daughter had like an ACL injury and was kind of out of it. She had surgery. Tomorrow will be the 1-year anniversary of her surgery, and like 1 year of just like losing me watching her play soccer, which was like a very big thing that we had. That was an emotional thing that I went through. I thought I was gonna cry, but I didn't cry. But it's just like, as she gets older and she's about to be a junior next year, I'm starting to see some of these last things that I'm going to be able to do with her. And so those do get me emotional in terms of like seeing like this, because for me, once it's done, it's done. Like, there's no other kids behind her. I'm definitely going to cry. I'm probably going to cry next year. So I ain't want to take too much time, but man, I just wanted to say that understanding of that last time, it's going, that's when you're going, to me, that's when I felt it, when it was like, it's going to be the last time I do this with you. Last time you want to do this with me, because that's gonna be the age where she ain't want to do this with me too much longer.
Listen, I'm the only one that still be listening to Disney songs in the car. They all be like, turn it up, turn it, Dad. We want to hear Billie Eilish. I'm like, no, we want to hear Lion King. Stay little. What are you doing?
Kids Place Live.
Yeah, I want to hear the King songs.
Man, that's funny. That's funny.
Wait till K-pop come in.
Ugh. Daron, how do you think, where do you think, I mean, Logan's 5, so, but what is your thought or philosophy on showing her that vulnerability? Like, how important is that to you?
I have not had a reason to say cry around her. Come here. They're saying hi, Lo.
Hey, doll.
She did her own hair.
I think it's amazing.
Oh, my favorite hairdo is puff balls. Hey, the puff balls come natural and free.
I have small hands, so I could never do the
Oh, I can't do it either.
Hold and gather.
Yeah.
The holder, like,
I don't even try.
It's hard. You never do the.
Hey, Logan, can you hook me up? Yeah. All right.
It works.
Yes.
Excuse me?
Yes, ma'am.
I love it.
I'm gonna let you hook this up. If you could do something with this.
Sit down. You don't even have.
Now I got to tell YouTube is kids.
You have
video.
bottoms.
I gotta check the box. Are there children in your video? Yes.
Really?
Well, I similar to that. With everything, you can go. Bye-bye. With everything that's been going on, I had to go talk to a therapist, just because it had got to be quite a bit with COVID and me losing so many different people, and a fear set in for me that something was going to happen to her or, to my wife. And I, as a man, as a husband, you want to protect them from anything that could hurt them. And this is something that literally is nothing I could do to protect them. And it started to deal with me, and I had to find a way to talk to somebody about it, because I found myself just sad every day. And that was not like myself. I don't think she really picked up on it. It was more discussions with my wife, but and I realized that you can't worry about things that have not happened yet, things that are out of your control, and kind of got back to being myself. But I don't think I would have a hard time showing my emotions or a vulnerability or anything. I think that's important to a certain extent, for her to see that side, to see that it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
I had my little sister. I think, like I said, with my father not really showing that kind of emotion, she's a crier, but she's a resilient crier. She's one of those criers like, I'm not going to cry, like I'm not really trying to show you my vulnerability. I don't want anybody to see my vulnerability. And even to the point with her husband, I had to, talk to her like, hey, it's okay. I mean, we have emotions. We're human. Some things we're happy about, some things we're sad about, and it's okay. You got to let it out, whatever it is. If not, it eats you up. But hopefully I don't have anything to cry about anytime soon. But I don't have any problems showing my emotion because it's natural.
Yeah. Dave, you didn't mention that you have gone to therapy, but I know that therapy is an open topic in your household, and it is something that I imagine is encouraged.
He has 4 daughters. He has to go to therapy.
I go to therapy. It's called marijuana. And I got to go talk to somebody else. Go talk to old boy. That's all I call it. Going outside the garage, talk to old boy. I'll be back.
Cheaper, and your insurance may cover it now.
No, I mean, look, it's my wife is obviously into therapy, and she does an excellent job of monitoring whether anybody's going crazy, you know. And like, hey, am I crazy for this? She's like, no, you're not crazy. And by the way, crazy is probably not the proper word. Do I need therapy for this? Right? Do I need this guy? The kids need therapy. You know, the kids do some wild stuff, and because they're all on their own individuals, you're not quite sure how to take some of it. Like, you know, this kid can focus and get excellent grades once they don't have their phone and their door's been taken off and they've been sick, but then they get friends, they get influenced, and they do crazy things like trying to press their hair at 3 a.m. on a TikTok and under the covers, you know, something just ridiculous. And I'm like, man, do you need to see someone? Because I'm the one who gave you that phone and you promised me not this happen. I'm the one that did, you know, and so I don't know if I need therapy yet, and I haven't had to have any therapy yet, but my wife certainly says that, you know, if I get to the point where I need a therapist, she would definitely let me know. Like, say, okay, you know, you need to go to a therapist.
I am a total advocate of therapy. I know Andrea is, and I appreciate you all even being willing to speak on it. So I've taken so much of your time, and Andrea, to the point that, you know, she had to go, you know, get her boss lady on. If you guys could describe in just a few words what your hope, like when your daughters are one day speaking about you, you know, when we lost my father, there was so much emotion and so much to say. And one day you guys will be gone and your daughters will be here and they will have something to say about you. And what is it that you hope that they will say about you?
I'd hope that they say, we were really happy when he won that Super Bowl. And they're like, man, I knew he wanted that Super Bowl his whole life. But I laugh because, you know, Daron and Thaddeus has noticed about me, but I have an outrageous goal of having a Super Bowl trophy. And there's only a few ways to get there as a player or a coach or as an owner. So I've written out in everything I've done the outrageous goal of owning an NFL team and winning the Super Bowl. Because having a team without the Super Bowl is a waste of time, right? So that's everything I talk to about business and water and law. I tell people that's where I'm ultimately trying to get. And I have different avenues I put into play to see if I can get there. And I tell people this too. And at the end of the day, if my daughters have to come to my funeral, they will always say either he's won the damn Super Bowl or he died trying, right? And that really just comes down to having enthusiasm for life every day and waking up with the enthusiasm unknown to mankind and trying to just get 1% better every day. And if they keep doing that and they get through that funeral and go to a nice, you know, dinner afterwards and go to Hawaii to bury my ashes or whatever they do, just do it with some enthusiasm, right? And have a good day. But, you know, that's pretty deep there, writing your obituary. But I guess that's what these calls are for, to take you out of your comfort zone and ask you, what do you think about that?
I'm all about stepping outside of the comfort zone. Thaddeus, what is Nina going to say about you?
That I'm the funniest man she ever met. No, but I think ultimately, I just want the way that you and Andrea, that you speak about your father, like I don't want to consider it like a legacy, but you just want to feel like you are larger than life at the end of the day, that you still exist when your body doesn't exist, and that the meaning that you have in their life is just a part of them that continues the legacy that goes on, because it will ultimately, you want that to be continued on to the way that they instill it into their lives, and then going forth. And so, like, I gave up on the Lions winning the Super Bowl. I divorced the Lions like 4 years ago.
You know what I did? I told them they can get a puppy when the Lions won the Super Bowl. They've been salty at me for 3 years now.
Oh
3
man.
years, but go ahead. No, we can't. If I gotta stress, you gotta stress.
but yeah, but I think I just at the end of the day, like I hear the people that long and talk about their fathers, and I wish I had that feeling about my own father, and I didn't. But I just wanted to feel like, because I don't feel like my father exists with me, and I wanted to feel like I exist within my daughter, that a piece of me was carried on through her, that she can continue to just take that and build on it and make it something that will continue on. So I mean, that's what I hope for at the end of the day.
Thank you, Jerome.
I guess I would want her to say that, you know, my father loved me to the day he died, and that he did everything in his power to make sure I was successful in this world. Really, I think as fathers, there's nothing that we wouldn't do for our kids, you know, within reason. But you want to make sure that you raise your child to be a productive member of the society, to make a difference in this world. That's really, you know, what I want. I want my child to be a change agent. I want her to get out here and, you know, hopefully make life better for the next generation. And hopefully she'll say that I did that for her. So.
Well, you know, speaking on behalf of Andrea and from my own experience, you know, I'm very aware, and I think she is too, that not everyone is fortunate, and not every woman is fortunate to have the types of fathers we had, or the types of relationships and the types of openness and the types of security that we experienced with our dads for whatever reason, whether it was because they were a stronger support system than our mother, or whether it was because they supported our mother, or, you know, at one point my father was a single father, you know, and still showed up every day. And I would say that there are 6 very fortunate young women getting ready to go out into this world. And
I got 4 of them. That's not fair to them. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 5, 6.
Yeah.
And
awesome. I thank you guys so much for joining us. And Andrea and I were really excited about having this discussion. And hopefully you guys will come back together or separate and kick it with us some more. And
it was fun.
One more thing before we go, though. I like to legislate that they need to have an asterisk about a party of 6 getting charged the automatic service charge, because a 6 of this is your daughters. That's not the same 6 they're talking about, right? It's supposed to be the 10.
David,
10.
You losing all the way around, Dave. That's what you said, huh?
Yeah. Like, you know,
Look.
They're like Walker party of 6. Like who brought 6 people? It was me.
Look, I'll tell you this. My father had a party of 6 for the longest time. Then I threw a monkey wrench and everything and had a baby, so it was always 7 because you know.
It could go up. Yeah.
It could go up. I didn't even ask you guys about all that. So we'll have to come back.
All right, gentlemen, my pleasure.
Really
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for that.
Thank you guys. I appreciate
you. You guys' story.
Thank you.
I'll be back when I'm the mac and cheese king.
And this is the mac and cheese king. Jerome, would you like to plug something too?
Hey, I just appreciate you having me on here, Tiff. You know, I'm an honorary Langford for life.
Hey,
Y'all can't get rid of me.
I lounge with the Langford.
We keep growing, and we, you know, we're like, come on, if you fit.
I almost changed my name to Langford.
Right.
I almost did that.
Didn't I do that on Facebook for
Yes.
you?
Facebook.
I felt the same way. Carr says hi to Tiffany. We all
tell her I said hi. I can't wait to be back in Chicago.
Right.
Look, you know, Langford's, you know, we kind of stick to people, so
that's good.
You know, And I appreciate you guys appreciating us and being part of our story, as Dave said. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Nice, sweetheart.
Bye.
See y'all later.